Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Haley Estes. I'm here on the Mountain View Cottage on YouTube as well as Instagram and TikTok and as well on my blog. I share all things about large family lifestyle, homeschooling, cooking, cleaning, organizing, and just managing your family. And I'm super excited to share with you today some homeschool content. So I've been sharing all of our curriculum picks for the 2023-2024 school year, and today I'm going to continue with that video series, and I'm going to be sharing something a little bit different. I'm going to be sharing 5th grade level picks for my son who has a learning disability. So if you are a parent of a child with a learning disability or something like ADHD or dysgraphia, or just someone who struggles globally with learning, then this is going to be a really helpful video, I hope, for you. I have twin boys that both have learning disabilities. One is more severe than the other. And so today we are going to be going over my son who technically should be a 7th grader, but we are using 5th grade curriculum picks that are just better options for him that help him succeed in his schooling and continue along his path of growth. And I think that's the most important thing to mention when talking about kids who struggle with learning, is that you don't try to compare them with other children their age, but look at where they're at and what their path looks like, and then pick things that you feel like are appropriate for their learning style, appropriate for the level that they're at, and are helping them proceed along their own path. And that would be my biggest advice for homeschooling kiddos who are struggling with learning. So he did attend public school. He was in public school from pre-K or preschool until 3rd grade, and then 4th grade. And then we began homeschooling in the 2020 during the fall school year, because of the pandemic was one of the big reasons. But I have a whole video about why we homeschool if you're interested. And he went to a great school, and he did have an IEP all of those years of school, including in preschool, and he even had a parapro at one point who was like a one-on-one adult who helped him be able to be successful in school for several years. And I've learned a lot about teaching children with learning disabilities through him and through the IEP program. And I want to say that we really did have a great public school education staff and teachers that were really instrumental in helping him get to where he was before we began homeschooling. And we didn't have a negative schooling experience. But what I will say is I did feel like there was a lot of pushback about where he was at learning wise, and where the school wanted to push him for various reasons. A lot of it being the state standards and the way the school was ranked and things like that. And so he did get pushed along quicker and got left behind in certain areas, and that's just a fact. And public schools are doing the best that they can, so I don't blame them for that. But I love that now that we're homeschooling, we can take things at a slower pace, and when I feel like there is something he's really struggling with, we can stop, we can work on that longer, we can come at it from different angles, which is also something that they did in the public school setting. But it seems like it was still like they were just kind of full and pass faster than he was ready to go. And so yeah, that is kind of where he's at. So he should be a technical 7th grader, but he is using a 5th grade curriculum. This is after a lot of trial and error. This will be going into our 4th year homeschooling. And unfortunately, I got some of his curriculum picks right the first year that we homeschooled, and then I played around the last couple years with different things that were not as successful. And the second half of this last school year, we switched back to that curriculum that worked really good for him, and as well as his twin. He also switched back to that curriculum too. So I'm going to share some of the supplements that I use for him that help, and just some of the tools that have helped him be successful. But these are our 5th grade curriculum picks for my son with a learning disability, who would technically be a 7th grader if he was in public school still. The first thing that I have found that works really well for him is the Master Books curriculum. The Master Books curriculum is what we used the first year. It's what we ended with this year. And it truly, truly, truly is a much better fit for him academically. It is a little more gentler. The lessons are very straightforward. They're not a lot of fluff. It's a much more straightforward and to the point, and it's in a way that's very easy for him to understand and to accomplish. Some of the things that I noticed with him is if a curriculum wasn't working was that he needed a ton of support but was still not getting it. And this would go on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I just realized he wasn't retaining the information because it was too much. And even with a lot of support, it still wasn't something he could all do on his own. And so I love the language lessons for a living education from Masterbooks. He will be on grade level 5 this year because they allow him to, he still does need some help with things, which is normal if you're learning and growing, but he can navigate through this also independently a lot of the time. And I have 7 kiddos in our home, and so it is very helpful to have a curriculum that he can do somewhat on his own, but I also expect him to need more support just given his learning style. So we have really loved Masterbooks. It's been a really good fit for him, and we will use it again this school year. The next choice is our math choice, which shouldn't be a surprise. We will also be using the Masterbooks Math Lessons for a Living Education Level 5, and this is also similar to the English language lessons with Masterbooks, where it's very straightforward. It's not a lot of fluff. It's not too much practice. We have tried the Good and the Beautiful math. We have tried, what's it called? It's like a spiral method. Oh, it's not coming to me. We've tried a couple different math programs, and it was either just like way too overwhelming because there were too many practice problems, or it was too far advanced, or there were too many ideas being shared in one, too many different types of math problems being shared in one lesson, that it was just way too much for him. Something that I have found with my kids who do have learning disabilities is that it's really hard for them to switch from one type of math to a different type of math, even if we're just going from like multiplication to division. Or maybe not so much multiplication division, but like from addition and subtraction to multiplication division. If there's a lot of switching from one type of math to a different in one single lesson, and then you like money is being in there and a lot of word problems, and that was kind of our struggle with the Good and the Beautiful math, which is a math program I love and I use for my 2 girls who do not have learning disabilities, and so I'm not knocking that program at all. It just didn't work for him because he needed something that was a little more focused and simplified, and that is why the Masterbooks Math and English Language Arts have worked so well for us. Also, just a caveat, we have somebody working on our wall outside today, so you're going to hear some tools in the background. I apologize. Another thing that he really struggles with and is really common with kids with learning disabilities is spelling, and so I do like to provide some additional spelling work for him, and we used this last year and it worked really good. It is the Spelling Skills, grade 6 actually. He's moving up to grade 6 from he did grade 5 last year. Oh, just kidding. That's my other kiddo. Grade 4. He did grade 3 last year. His spelling skills are something he really struggles with a lot. And so he completed the grade 3. We'll be doing grade 4 this year. And these have worked really good for him. Once again, they're pretty straightforward. The word choices are great, and he is able to do this 100% independently, and I think that that's a really good boost for him because sometimes he feels upset or down because he can't do it alone, and while he sees his other siblings accomplishing things on their own. And so I think it's important to have some things within his curriculum that he can do independently and feels good about, but it's also helping because it really is helping build his spelling skills. So we really like this. We've also used Explode the Code. I struggle a little bit with Explode the Code because of the messy pictures. They're sometimes a little too juvenile for me. I don't love that. And this doesn't have pictures. It's a lot of just words and letters. And so this is a little bit more of a cleaner, sleeker spelling program, and I like it a little better. So that is what we're going to use for him next year. The next thing we are going to use is the print to cursive. This is not something I've used before, so this is something we're just going to kind of try out. He has used the Good and the Beautiful handwriting in the past, and he loves it, and has completed many different books of those. But I thought we would try something a little different this year just because I felt like it, and so we will be using this print to cursive, transition smoothly to cursive handwriting next school year. The next thing is something he really struggles with is writing. I would say spelling and writing are some of the skills he struggles with most. He does pretty good with math as long as it's not all over the place, but spelling and writing are much more difficult for him. He has a very creative mind and he can write all kinds of creative writing, but getting it into a orderly fashion and into the writing styles that are being asked of him, or writing about a certain topic that he's not familiar with, can be tricky. So we are trying something new this year. I have used other programs in the past. We've used building writers with with more success with his twin, but not as much success with him. So this is, I think, going to be a little bit more of a gentler approach, and it is the Scholastic Success with Writing, grade 5. And he will use this next year. And I'm hoping that this helps him. I also plan to do a lot more free writing with him, and then taking that free writing and turning it into a persuasive essay, or turning it into, you know, a how-to, and using his interests to help him write better, and then not following a curriculum per se. And so I think that's another huge tip I have for you if you are homeschooling kids who have learning disabilities, is try to bring in things that they love to their learning to help them enjoy learning more and be more excited about what they're doing. He loves dinosaurs, he loves Zelda, the video game, and so if I ask him to write about the Arizona mountains where we live versus tell me a storyline that's in Zelda, and make up a story about the Zelda characters, I'm gonna get two totally different finished pieces. And it's a lot easier to help kids use interest-led learning when they're struggling with academics, I have found. And so those are some of my tips for that. Another thing he struggles with is he does have ADHD and struggles to pay attention. And we do a lot of read aloud time together as a family for our group subject. So something I have found works really good for him is if he sits next to me and follows along with me as I read, he will retain 80% more information that way versus just sitting somewhere else in the room. I also find that for him in particular, it doesn't work to like color or play with clay or something else, because his mind wanders to that activity and can't multitask, listen to what I'm reading and do that activity at the same time. And so just kind of knowing your kids' strengths and weaknesses is really good, because it will help with the outcome of their success in schooling. I also try so hard to be really patient with him and really kind with him, because the minute he's upset or discouraged, all learning goes out the window. And so I find that it's really important to keep him happy and enjoying the day and what's going on, to be in the best mindset for learning. And so those are some of my tips for homeschooling a kiddo with learning disabilities. I'm gonna mesh these two videos together because I'm sharing tips about teaching kids with learning disabilities. So I'm now gonna share with you his twins' curriculum picks for 6th grade. Once again, he would technically be a 7th grader, but because he does have a diagnosed learning disability, it's a global learning disability, so it affects all areas of learning, as well as my other son. He is doing a 6th grade curriculum, and that is working good for him. He will also be using language lessons for a living education, grade 6. Once again, I just find that these are very straightforward lessons. I think that it really helps to have shorter, smaller lessons with kids with learning disabilities, because their attention span can be shorter, and if they are frustrated, it takes more energy. And so I think that they learn better when concepts are introduced to them more gently and not with so much work and effort put behind them once a concept is taught, so that they retain it better. And so this has been a really great curriculum. They both used it in 3rd grade, and then they're going to use it again this year. I think I already shared that. So this is what has worked the best for them. The next thing he will be using, which should also not be a surprise, is the level 6 math from Master Books, Living Education, Lessons for a Living Education. Once again, for all the same reasons, the lessons are not too much. There's not too many problems. So for example, this is lesson day, let's see here. Lesson day 52. Most of the lessons are like a page front to back. And so a page front to back. And I found that with other curriculum, it was a page front to back, but it was a lot more packed into one page, and there were 3 or 4 different sections of different kinds of math and things that were happening. And it was just too much to switch from one thing to the next thing. I find that my kids with learning disabilities really struggle with switching. Once their brain is turned on to the concept that they are learning and they are working on, they're ready to go. But the minute you switch it and you're like, okay, we're going from addition and subtraction or from fractions to long division, it's like, oh wait, hold the phone. And it's really hard for them to switch and transition. And so this has been great. It does have some review at the end of each lesson, but it's not overkill. And I find that some of the other math programs we've tried have been overkill for them. They work great for other kids, but not for my kids with learning disabilities. He will also be using the spelling, but grade 6. And this is just a really great way to emphasize spelling and help them recognize words. One of the things I really like that it does in here is that it just gives them the opportunity. So like, here's the spelling list. It gives them the opportunity to write it down and copy it, and then they cover it, and then they try to write it on their own. And this is a great way for me to kind of gauge how they're doing. And it's amazing to see how, as they go a couple weeks with the same set of words, how they really do improve and do better. Another thing I really like is that it has options like these sentences that have misspelled spelling words, so they can recognize the word that's misspelled and then spell it right. And I feel like that concept alone really has helped with their spelling. He will be using a different writing program. This one is 180 Days of Writing for 6th grade. He loves to write and is a great writer, and is actually a pretty strong writer. So I kind of mostly just got this to try and maybe give us some ideas to write and use some of his own ideas, because he really does love to write and has written some books and stuff. Writing is something he's actually pretty gifted with. And so I'm just looking for ideas kind of, and some, to kind of fill in his own writing with some actual, like, okay, let's write a persuasive essay, or let's write this. And I am not against asking my kids to, like, what do I know about fairy tales from a villain's perspective? I'm not afraid to pop in his own things in there instead of saying, what do I know about Zelda from the villain's perspective? Because he likes Zelda too. And making it more personalized for what his likes and interests are. So we're gonna try this out today. Both of these writing programs I've never used before, and I just picked them to see how they go for the school year. But we have really liked Building Writers. Building Writers worked excellent for my 6th grader with a learning disability. This year he did excellent with that, but the one in 5th grade really struggled. So that's why I kind of chose to change it, and I'm kind of questioning if I should have done that, but anyway. And then I also got him the print to cursive. His handwriting has grown leaps and bounds this year, but I do feel like cursive is something that he could benefit from, just the fluidity of it. And so here's an example of what a page looks like in that. But I'm super excited to do school with them again next year. I also just want to say, do not be intimidated to homeschool your kids with learning disabilities. You are going to know better than any professional where your kid is at, what they need, and how much they need to be pushed and encouraged to succeed. And it was one of the biggest deciding factors for me when we decided to homeschool, of whether we would or not, because I was terrified that I was not equipped to teach them. There's so many resources out there, and I think just you will see as they do each lesson where the gaps are and what they need more help with. You'll do one lesson and you'll get, oh, okay, you really are struggling with fractions, so let's reel it back and let's just do fractions. And you can find free fraction worksheets online and just keep working on fractions for a while until you feel like they're really confident with fractions. And that is the beauty of homeschooling, is that literally all your kids have an individualized education plan, an IEP. And it's not just your kids with learning disabilities who will be able to benefit from the one-on-one that you can give them with homeschooling. And so I hope that this was helpful, and if anything, I hope that it was encouraging that you can homeschool kids with learning disabilities. They can succeed, they can make progress, and you can see it day to day happening. It has been amazing to see my kids grow and do better, and it's super rewarding, and it is so rewarding for our relationship because as we work together, it has built our relationship stronger. And I just appreciate them and how hard they're working to do better in school, and I can see their hard work, and there's a lot less frustration, and it's not as tiring being in a public school setting. You can have a quieter environment. Sometimes we have 7 kids, so not always quiet, but it can just be more calming and peaceful at home in certain settings on certain days. For a better learning environment. And I really encourage you to set up a space for your kids who are struggling with learning so that they can learn in a quiet spot. So my twins, I don't know if this video will be up before or after, they have a desk area in their room where they do school, and that has worked really well for them to have a quiet place where they can shut the door away from the distractions of other kids doing chores or watching a show or mom helping another kid with something. It's really, really beneficial for them to have a place where they can do school in a quiet setting. And so if you can set that up in their room, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I would even encourage you to get, there's those trays for like eating in front of the TV. You can use those, or like lap desks, so they can just do school on their bed if that's not too distracting for them. And I think kids with learning disabilities really benefit from a quiet environment. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you will like and subscribe to my channel for more homeschooling content and more large family lifestyle content. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day.